back. So excuse me, my next video is the Avondale NCC300 Voyager. Now I did a previous video where I built this up. We've seen that, and I said I was gonna, this is a sort of like a quasi sort of Voyager, where the Voyager has two transformers and two power supplies. So you have the big transformer supplies the output stage, and you have a separate secondary supplying the front end side off the same transformer. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to drop a second transformer in. They're strange looking things, but it's a transformer. A lot of iron in this, and I'm advised that it may look strange, but it's a superb device. And at this stage I've got to thank Avondale. He has kindly donated to this video. I'm not going to say sponsored, I'm not allowed to, but he's donated some product which I'm going to use in this build for entertainment purposes. He supplied a couple of mini cap 6s. These mini cap 6s, you've seen these before in a previous video. I'm going to build these up. I'm replacing these, which are the Pink Fish DIY group buy boards of 10 years ago. But I want to make this a complete Avondale jobby, if you see what I'm saying. And on this cap 6, mini cap 6, I'm going to be using they're 100 volts, 220, 2200 microfarads, 6 of them. So you got 6,000 or 7,000 microfarads per rail, plus and minus. And that is just going to supply, so we're going to have a transformer, and then the cap 6, mini cap 6, and that's going to supply just this front end. So we'll have galvanic isolation between the two transformers, or the amp boards, the output and the inputs. So again, thank you Avondale Audio for your donation, much appreciated. I've got to strip this out. I won't bore you with that. It's just a matter of unclipping all these and disconnecting everything, and we'll come back later and I'll show you how we're going to put it together and set up and test. The two secondaries from this 540 V8 transformer, I've parallel them together. So instead of each secondary supplying each power supply, this transformer only supplies this cap 6 module, and in turn it only supplies the output section of the power amp board. So it's just a matter of the secondaries, the whites together, the greens together. The greens are 0, the white is 35, the yellow's 35 or 36, so we're getting 50 volts, thereabouts 52 volts at the rails, plus and minus here. The zeros still come back here. I've also installed this little tiny little transformer. It's 0120 0120 in series, so it's 0240. I've strapped the two zeros, 040, 040, so I've strapped the two zeros together, so they go down to the 0 volts here on this mini cap 6, and the AC comes off here, goes to the AC, this side goes to this side. So we should get something like 65 volts here as an output, and I will have to adjust this regulator back, I think, a little bit. Not that it really matters. You can overdrive this if you like. You can have far more voltage on the input side of this board. As I say, these are 52, but this will run 55 volts, no problem at all. So it's just a matter of wiring this all up now. I'm going to run the AC. I might put a little block in here so that I can piggyback the AC from here. It will come around here, and the AC's on this side and the DC's on this side, so never the twain should meet, as they say. It's not overcritical because I've got so much space. If it's really tight, if you've got a really tight case, you do need to try and segregate the AC and the DC, in my opinion. And you'll note I've twisted these together. You should really, I mean, the theory is you should twist the DCs together, but I never have, and I've never had any issues, not on this type of amplifier. I have had issues with A-class in some instances where it is imperative that you twist all these together to, in effect, humbucking really, and it neutralises any noise. So that's it so far. I'll carry on wiring it up, and I'll come back when I'm ready to power up. I will disconnect all these supply lines to the boards and power it up and make sure all the voltages are correct and everything's right before I do a final power up and adjust and set up. So I'll be back shortly. So we have a second transformer here, old-fashioned type thing, but this is a printed circuit board, but I've adapted it because I haven't got any perf board, any board with holes in it. So I've just soldered on some spade terminals, and I've made a standoff that goes through the chassis so that it can be wired up. Though I can't be bothered to wait for the board. So this is, as stated before, this is a Mini Cap 6, an Avondale Mini Cap 6. We've got a bit of filtering here. These are quite old. It's just a choke, bit like these as you see on here. It's the same thing in a different package really. I think it's about 12 millihenries or something like that. Not that it matters, it just knocks the noise between this cap, that cap and that cap, so you get nothing on the outside. I've coupled up the AC to this, so you've got 240 here. I've made this safe with a plastic cover, so there's no way you can actually touch any of this here. Top priority that. So this transformer is now solely supplying this power supply unit, the Cap 6 module. This transformer is supplying this Mini Cap 6. It's only going to supply the front end of this board, which is this side of the board, and this supply supplies the output side. I haven't fired it up yet, and this is always a deep breath and we'll have a look. This is a 0. This pink wire here is a 0 wire that comes off the front end of this Mini Cap 6, and it goes to the 0 on the Cap 6 here, so the zeros are strapped together. And as you can see, all the supplies to the power amp module are disconnected. That'll come very soon, but initially what I want to do is just fire it up and see what voltages we got. So we got our 0 on our 0, and I've got a positive probe here, and you'll see when I fire it up, hoping it's going to fire up. Yeah, we'll see what voltages we got on the power supply. So on this Mini Cap 6, if only it would work, because I'm not connected to there. So there we got 62 volts negative. This side we should have 62 volts positive. 63, yeah, that's fine, that'll do me. And on this one we now have 51.5 volts, and on this side should be positive, 51.4 volts. So all this power supply and regulation is working correctly. So I'm now going to power off. I'm going to wait for it to decay, or in actual fact I can use my stinger. I've got a thing called a stinger which takes all the power out of the capacitor banks. So it's just in this case I'm using, it's just I think it's 10 ohms, so I can't really, it's a 10 ohm high power resistor. and you just go across from 0 to a little spark, nothing, a little tiny spark there, nothing. So all the energy is now dissipated, gone from there. This one will be a bigger spark, because what you don't want to do, there you go, you don't want to connect these energized power supply units to your amp board when they're charged, because you get a surge. It might only be millivolts, but you get a surge the wrong way. 0 is 0, that's connected. But if these weren't discharged, I mean, there's some resistors in the bottom of this, so this bleeds off quite quickly within 2 or 3 minutes. I haven't put any on this at the moment. It's something I haven't bothered with. But you don't want to put energy onto this board, any power that is what you call unbalanced, to make sure they both come up at the same time. So discharge your capacitor banks in your power supplies before connecting it to any power amp module. This doesn't matter which power amp module, you discharge everything. So I'm just going to do that again just to make sure that it's safe. From 0, nothing, nothing. From 0, sorry I keep banging this camera. From 0, negative side, we're going to go across to the positive side, nothing. They call it a stinger, just takes the energy to ground. All the power in these capacitors is just bled to ground, doesn't do any damage. So what we're going to do now, bear with me, I'm going to reconnect the amp board. That's a 0. The green is a 0 to the front end. I'll put my hands in the way, but all I'm doing is connecting the negatives to the negatives, the positives to the positives, like that. Thus. So there you go, it's all wired up now. I'm now going to, this is, could be a bit dodgy, we'll see, but probably not. We're going to see what the front end here, bearing in mind we're supplying this regulator to this front end board with 62 volts or thereabouts. We're going to actually see what this is now going to be taking, and I might have to do some a bit of quick adjustment just to bring it back down. So here we go, power on. 43 volts, so it's dropping 20 volts, which I probably think is a bit too much. I want to take this up to about 50, the same as what's on the output side. I'm trying to get round here to get to the pot. There it is, so that you can see what I'm doing. I don't know if you can see the meter as well. See if it will go up. Wrong way. So I'm going to take this to about 50. That'll do, mate. So it's 50 on the negative side. And we want 50 on the positive side. We've only got 44 as before. There we go. No smoke, no issues thus far. I'm just going to double check this side. 50 volts. I'm now going to check the DC offset. Seven millivolts, well under 10, perfect. Steady as a rock. Actually, I think this is more stable with the higher voltages than it is at lower voltage, but if I recall that. So that's, sorry about that, the battery run flat on the camera. So what I'm going to do now is the final tests. We've checked the voltages off the front end of the regulators, they're all set up nicely. We've checked the DC offset, we know that's good. I'm now checking the biased element, and it was at 2.4 previously, and it needs a little tweak. We're going to give it a little tweak, bring it back up to 2.4, 2.3. There we go, 2.4 volts of bias. It's running, not warm yet, it's on its way. So that really concludes the build of this. I'm not going to say it again. The Voyager, Avondale Voyager. I've got to say thanks to Avondale for his input on this, very helpful over the period of time. Hope you enjoy it. The next video going to be slightly different. In actual fact, it's going to be a speaker. It's an open baffle speaker, just to give you a heads up. In effect, it's just a plank of wood with 2 drive units installed on it, and it works very, very well. It was conceived by, I think his name is Martin King or Mark King. He has a Facebook page, and he's written many white papers on speakers design. I've adapted it somewhat from his original posting some years ago. I've been using these things. I knocked them up in an afternoon. It uses an Eminence 15-inch bass unit, and it also uses a Mark Audio 4-inch full range driver, passive crossover. I've adapted it slightly in as much as the actual legs in effect are an integral part of its design now, and there's a divider between the full range unit. This is looking through the back of it, obviously. There's a divider between the full range unit and the bass unit, and I'll go into that. There's a bit of a cut-in list as well, and I'm hoping to do in effect a full video of a build, really, for those that may or may not be interested. So that'll be the next one. Be some time. Been a bit busy, but I wish you all the best. I wish you safe and well, and your families. Hope you all had a good Christmas. I've been very busy with work. Where I work, it's an essential industry, if you like. It's been very busy, hence the period of time. But I wish you all the well. I look forward to doing another video. I hope this is helpful. I will come back and give you a heads up on how this sounds. I'm sure it's better. Well, I know it's better, but it's by adding this transformer, you add the nuance to the music, or to the presentation. There's a delicacy and a speed added to the resultant sound. But I'll come back and give you a heads up on that. You can, any of the amp boards, the Avondale, the 200, the 220, if you just put a separate transformer and power supply on the input side of the amp boards, and there's lots on Pinkfish about it, there is a substantial gain. You do not have to have a regulator between the power supply and the input side of the amp board, and there is a gain to be had by doing that. Just as a heads up, I've done it many times. I mean, there's many people put regulators as well, like this. But many thanks for watching. All the best. Keep safe.